forecast, there's a lot of uncertainty. I think a couple of the big pieces are related to our federal government. Things that we read in the news, often directly or indirectly, we feel them in San Francisco. So one of the things that we're watching carefully is there have been a lot of economic policy changes that have caused uncertainty in the national economy that spills over into San Francisco. So for example, when we talk about tariffs and how those tariffs are going to change various financial outcomes in the national economy, those affect us. The other one is the federal and state budgets. I mentioned that a lot of our revenue, 2 of our biggest 5 revenue sources are revenue from the state and federal government. There are a lot of policy discussions happening right now at the federal level and less so at the state level, but also at the state level, that could reduce funding for San Francisco. So we have in our operating budget about $2 billion per year that comes from the federal government through various programs that are things like Medicaid, which pays for health insurance, support for Muni, support for our airport. Those are real funds, and there's a significant risk of loss of those funds. This is going to be one of the things that the mayor and the board have to grapple with as they think about not only what our deficit is, but what are the financial risks facing the city, and how do we plan for those risks. I believe that's it. Next slide. So I won't reiterate these, but hope that helps give a little bit of a picture of kind of what the outlook is for the city and why we are where we are in this financial moment. So thanks for the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg Wagner, the stellar city controller. Okay, next up, I'm going to invite Parag Gupta from the Board of Education to provide an update on the school district budget situation there.
Thank you, Supervisor Engardio. Hello, fellow Sunset neighbors. It's wonderful to see you. I'm Parag Gupta. I'm a new commissioner on the school board. My term started in January, and I'm also a Sunset resident, and I'm also a proud SFUSD parent. So when the board started, and I will say, talking numbers, I'm going to try to do this in a minute or two, so if you have follow-up questions, feel free to approach me. I'm also happy to give you my email address so you can reach out to me. So when the new board started and took office in January, the school board was already in what's called fiscal negative certification. And what that means is we are currently deficit spending, and if we do not change our ways, we will be in the red, meaning the school district will go bankrupt. To give you an idea what that deficit spending looks like, we are roughly spending in costs about $1.4 billion, and our revenue sources amount to about $1.2 billion. So you can see how we are chipping away at our reserves, and if we do not change, then that would mean that we would go bankrupt. I'm here to assure you that is not going to happen. That is why a lot of us came into the school board, because we recognized we needed to change the situation. So one of the things that it also means is with a negative fiscal certification, we have what's called a fiscal advisor. And the fiscal advisor has veto power over what the superintendent or what the school board can choose to spend the money on. And this can at times create uncertainty. Say, for example, we just had to go through a long conversation with our fiscal advisor to make sure we can hire the teachers we need to make sure every classroom in SFUSD this coming school year has a teacher in it. That's very important for us and for our students. And so we were able to convince our fiscal advisor, but that meant that we had to delay sending out a notice and telling our teachers that we want them back. And of course, we don't want other school districts to poach our teachers. So the point of that is, the sooner we can get to a positive fiscal certification, the better, because then our fiscal advisor does not tell us we can or cannot do things. Instead, we're in a position where we can rely on our fiscal advisor's expertise, and they're just simply a fiscal expert, that can help to guide us with their wisdom. And so part of doing that is, and part of getting to positive certification, is we need to do 3 things. The first is to have a fiscal stabilization plan, and we are well underway of doing that. In fact, our fiscal advisor notified us that he's very happy with the developments that we've made in getting that fiscal stabilization plan done. Second, we obviously have to spend within our means and balance our budget. And the third being that we need to put in the functional operational systems that are necessary to make sure that we are hiring correctly, we know exactly how many educators, teachers we have, and they're in the right places. What this means in terms of this year's budget, so remember I mentioned we have a $1.4 billion spend, so we need to cut about $117 million this year, so about 10% of our budget. So the question is, how do we do that? Well, one of the things that we've done is we had about 345 teachers and staff members take voluntary early retirement. The other piece of that is we laid off about 130 staff members or teachers, sorry, not teachers, 130 staff members across site, across different schools. So about 120 schools had about 130 staff members that were laid off. And I think the other thing is we wanted to make sure that we were making cuts as well in the central office. And so at the central office, we had about 205 staff that were laid off. To put that in perspective, just a few years ago, about 25% of the overall budget was central staff. With this reduction, next year it'll only be about 16%. So and that's below the state average of how much school districts spend on central staff. The last thing I'll say is, so that gets us to about around 113 million of that 117 million that we need to cut. So we're only about 4 million away, and we will get there. We will get there this year. And our goal is to not just get there this year, but in December, we have an opportunity to review and to change our fiscal certification. And so again, our goal as the board, our goal that the superintendent is being evaluated on, is being able to get to positive certification. So we hope to either get to what's called qualified or even positive certification in December. And also keeping an eye towards the next 3 years. Once the new school year, the new fiscal year starts in July, making sure that over the next 3-year period, we're also keeping our budget in control so that we are not ever going to get to the red. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for allowing me to update, and I'll turn it back to Supervisor Berg.
All right, question and answer time. Do we have